Hi, my name is Sandra Whittle, and I'm the inventor of the Soma Flex responsive pelvic floor vaginal toner. I've been working on the human form since 1987, I think I started my journey, and trained as a physio, qualified in the year 2000, and established my physiotherapy clinic in 2003. So I am a state registered physiotherapist and obviously members of the CSP, POGP, Fascial Research Society, the FHT, and a Physio First member. Obviously, over time, you put hours of training in, you go on different courses, you learn different modalities. But in the latter years, these are the things that really fascinated me and that I became really interested in. I began my journey with the Fascial Research Society back in 2016, I think, and I've been following how the fascia research has progressed over the years. I love women's health, and I'm a great advocate for oncology and therapies, especially massage. So obviously postural alignment is really important, and chronic pain is also a subject that I've read quite vastly on as well. So these are the type of articles and research papers that I indulge in. So I love the biotensegrity, fascial system all the way down to the tissue matrix and ground substance, biomechanical, biochemical, proprioceptive, interoceptive, neurophysiologically, the way all the somatic sensory feedback that we have influences our body and its function. So I actually thought I was headed towards retirement, but that wasn't meant to be. After my allegedly adult children, their friends started having babies, and there's just nobody here in the northwest of England, really. So it didn't look like I was going to retire. But as I'm beginning my dedication to fitting pessaries and women's health, it didn't sit right with me, the type of pessaries we were using. So I became a little bit inspired to rethink and see what I could come up with. So I started looking at nature, and we have the sea sponge here. I went on a pessary course, and it was just literally the sea sponge that took my eye, really, because when it caught my eye, it was just one of those things where it's such a natural product, but obviously it's difficult to clean, etc. So, because I love biotensegrity and the fascial connectivity of the body, I started to look at ideas of, the shape of what's happening in the sea sponge, honeycombs, snowflakes. And this is what I came up with for the Soma Flex. I actually went with a biotensegral lollipop and elastic band model to the manufacturers, and I just went, is this possible to make? And so basically, we designed the shape around a dodecahedron. So it's a 12-sided shape, and it makes it lovely, soft and flexible, but it rebounds back to regain its structure. So I just love this shape. And when you look into what is a dodecahedron, it's one of the five platonic solids, and it's often described as sacred geometry. So it's like a building block, and it's a shape of nature and life. So after mentioning the idea of Soma Flex to a few people, we did a bit of an in-house somatherapy trial with the prototypes. And then we decided to launch the Soma Flex as a consumer product. It gives all of us a little bit more autonomy. It's a faster launch because there was an obvious demand and people inquiring, where can we get it from many countries. So it's like, how quickly can we bring this to market in a sensible and safe way? So when you launch as a consumer product, obviously you have all the regulations that fit in with the consumer identity. But the consumer phase, I call phase one. So it gives us faster launch time, more agile more, more agile iteration. And basically, we take the time to have surveys, we get the feedback, we listen to everything. So it's time when we can make changes, we can adapt, and we can listen to all the feedback to make sure I can bring the best possible product to market. It also feels a bit more empowering because you can have a little bit more autonomy over your brand and the design as well. Broader audience, because not everybody wants to talk about their pelvic floor and go to their healthcare professionals. And I believe it's like a stronger lifestyle alignment, because when you started looking into the research as to how and why it works so wonderfully from the feedback, that yeah, you gain more of an insight. And like I said, it's not a phase to be rushed, so you can bring the best possible product to market. So the main problem I've always found with women's health is trying to get women to correctly interact with their pelvic floor muscles. You know, that engagement is sometimes the hardest thing to learn, but obviously it's the foundation of all rehab and any sort of exercise programs. We need that engagement, and that's probably the most difficult for all of us to do. You know, we have these challenges through life, through pregnancy, childbirth, menopause, aging. A posture plays a big role to a pelvic floor, and breathing habits. And it's like, how can you make it easier for all of us to engage with their pelvic floor and their pelvic floor muscles and to get them to work more functionally? So there's several reasons why we don't connect: lack of awareness, muscle weakness, dysfunction, muscle imbalance, incorrect muscle activation. We're all good at cheating when it comes to our pelvic floor muscles. Pain and discomfort, you know, there's coordination challenges, and obviously it's an emotionally impacted area. And obviously our breath, so if we're breathing up here and we're quite stressed and anxious, that has a major impact on our pelvic floor as well. So the other thing to bear in mind is, what movement patterns do we actually have in the pelvis? We have the usual anterior and posterior tilt, we have lateral tilts, we have rotational movements, and a multiple combination of all the above. You know, it's where the top meets the bottom and the bottom meets the top. And obviously we move in every kind of direction as we walk, as we're sitting, as we're exercising. So it's a very unique area of the body. It's a fascinating one. It's kind of like the undercarriage of a car that just is the foundation of our home stability and their whole wellness, really. So at the beginning of my career, in fact, it was a rotation as I was training to be a physiotherapist in Hastings with an amazing physiotherapist down there at the time. And we really focused on the pelvic floor as in lift and squeeze. But now we totally understand it's not just about lifting and squeezing. It's about relaxing and releasing. It's a whole body function of movements, because everything connects through the pelvis. And, you know, the fascial alignment that we have, the biomechanics of everything, we know that everything will blend into each other. And we have to look at whole our upper body and lower body movements when it comes to our pelvic floor. So it's time to look at how we rethink, when we need to rethink about the pelvic floor, you know, how we engage and how we have that whole body function. It's an amazing area, and it's still a bit of a taboo subject. We don't talk about it enough, and we kind of expect it to perform without us actually nurturing our pelvic floor and our vaginas. So yeah, I'm very passionate about this. It is about our whole body wellness, and it is time for change. So the Soma Flex is a responsive pelvic floor and vaginal toner. It's designed to engage internal movement, motion, as in walking and running. So it actually moves, bends and flexes with our body as we move. It's comfortable to wear. It's just worn like a tampon, and you just pop it in, do your exercise or wear it throughout the day, and it just gives us that sensory feedback that is so important for our whole vaginal wellness. So, what's actually happening when we're wearing the Soma Flex? It encourages pelvic floor engagement. Wearing this, you're more aware of the tension that we have in a vagina. We can feel the stretch when we're exercising. It helps us avert overload and strain because where it's situated. Um, and it can help us with voluntary contractions, and also it senses pressure and vibration. So there's that whole new range of information that will help us engage again with our pelvic floor. So proprioception is probably the main kind of research that we're looking into here with how the your body responds to the Soma Flex. So it makes us more aware of position and movement and force within the pelvis, the pelvic floor, and the vaginal tissues. So obviously, when we have children, this proprioception is compromised, and there's quite a few research papers out there that um, give us more information of the prevalence of this neuromuscular disruption that we have. In fact, one paper that I read a few years back said we could lose up to like 20%. Um, and that's quite phenomenal because we lose that connection. We try, but our brain tries to forget about the pain that we experience through having children. And so it's kind of something that you can understand why it happens. But hopefully, this is providing a solution to help us get back on track and building that awareness and that proprioception response back into everyday life. So, our pelvic floor and vaginal environment, as I call it, is, it's going to change through so many different stages of our life. Adolescence, we have the painful periods, the endometriosis, adenomyosis, and that's underreported. Like 1 in 9 women can have this condition. And there's all about this extra tension within the vaginal cavity, and obviously all the interactions of the muscles, fascia, and connective tissue. This can also be disturbed in pregnancy, postpartum, and obviously we have to include emotional trauma into this. Hormones, they play a massive role in the vaginal tissues. So we try and use visual cues when we're teaching pelvic floor exercises, but this is a sensory feedback that helps our brain connect again with the pelvic floor and to bring a whole awareness to the region. So the mechanoreceptors within the pelvic floor and the fascia and connective tissue plays a vital role in that sensory feedback, and that helps regulate the pelvic muscle tone, coordinated muscle control, and reflexes. But the mechanoreceptors are actually transmitting continuously and in real time to the somatic sensory cortex of the brain, and that's the subconscious part of the modulation of pelvic floor activity that's actually happening. So by wearing Soma Flex, you provide more sensory feedback, which is also very important for continence, sexual function, and the body's ability to sense position, movement, and tension in the muscle and muscle coordination. So this whole mechanoreceptor somatosensory responses that we have are both conscious and subconscious. Here I have a slide that gives a little bit more in-depth information of where we can find the muscle spindles, Golgi tendon organs within the pelvic floor muscles, the tissue, the connective tissue, and it just makes us a little bit more aware of what's actually happening in our body at a very subtle level, but it's a continuous feedback. And if we can improve that whole system, then we are bound to engage more with our pelvic floor. So the primary function of the Soma Flex is a responsive toner to help us reconnect. So there are lots of rules and regulations for, obviously, products for women's well-being. And obviously, I take my profession very seriously, but I love this phase 1 where we have a little bit more autonomy to find and explore how we actually fit into a medical system. So when you look at pelvic floor toners, they're normally active strengthening and relaxing pelvic floor muscle um, tools that we use to help us engage or release and relax. And then when you're looking at pessaries, it's more a case of support for pelvic organ prolapse that gives immediate relief for the symptoms, but provides an anatomical correction. The dynamics of the Soma Flex is that it's a multiple engagement with real-time response to the internal connective tissue. So I'm not actually really quite sure where it fits in, because it doesn't move and fix and change anatomically. It just very gently blends with the tissue around it. So are we a toner? Are we a responsive toner? Or do we fit into that world of pessaries? We share the same space, so it's a bit of a grey area. But obviously, the next phase is where we will actually do the medical and clinical trials to see exactly what's happening and where we fit in. But the moment we're in phase 1, it's a consumer product, and it's all about engagement and helping to tone the pelvic floor muscles and the tissues around it. So then Soma Flex is a new kind of vaginal wellness product. There is nothing out there similar. It shares the same space with a lot of products. But it's designed to help move with your body, and a gentle reminder to bring about an internal awareness, to help us feel more in tune, to help things work naturally as it is designed by nature, a dodecahedron. You simply insert it like a tampon. So you put water-based lube on the outside, just squidge it through, and you'll just wear it comfortably, depending on the length of your vagina and your tissue consistency. Because as we know, it can range from soft, squidgy tissue to very hard and firm tissue, and everything in between. So we can have softer, baggier tissue, firmer, some are hypertonic, hypotonic, and depending on the tissue as to how this wellness product will fit. So it's very individual, but you do know when it's a right fit for you. It's just comfortable. You can urinate, defecate, move, and it doesn't fall out. So like we said before, it's designed to move with you. It's not designed to hold you up, but it just connects with your tissues in a different way. There is no suction. There are 12 sides and lots of holes. So basically what will happen is like a bit of an octopus. It's live living tissue, and the vaginal tissue will just wrap itself around. And then depending on the consistency of your tissue, it could just sit around on the outside very gently, or you could have more of an engagement if you've got the baggier, floppier tissues. And sometimes as we go through menopause, there can be more sensitive tissue. So basically, once it's inserted, it's just a case of very gently moving it around to extract. And there are extraction cords that I recommend that you use to start with until you get used to it. And then you may not actually need the cord to help remove. So I just literally pop it in with one finger, and when I come to remove, I find the bigger hole, and it just very gently pops out as the tissues release. So it's all done very gently and softly. So this slide here, I tried to do a few comparisons with other products that are out there on the market as far as pessaries are concerned. And it's a difficult one because we do share the same space, but it doesn't work the same as anything else because it's soft and flexible. There is no suction. It's just very soft and comfortable. So it's all about the tissues engaging rather than fixing and holding. So it'd be nice to get the results of clinical trials and see exactly where we fit and what is the recommendations with it on, there's rules and regulations, and we need to make sure we're compliant with absolutely everything as we move forward. So like I said, phase 1 has been so interesting. Loads of feedback, lots to learn, a few changes made, and we're just monitoring the whole situation as we go through the whole process to make to bring the best possible product to market there is. So I think the other thing we need to talk about is interoception. It's the nervous system's capacity to sense and interpret internal signals within the body. So for those that aren't familiar with it, it's all about that sense of self. We can hear and feel her breath. It's that internal awareness, and I think the Soma Flex does that quite nicely, because where you wear it for a length of time, if you're using the medical grade version, you have that constant awareness of your pelvic floor, which is really nice to encourage that connection. I've certainly enjoyed using mine. I just put mine in the morning, and it's there. And some days I know that my pelvic floor may be feeling a bit more sensitive or weak that day, because obviously as the day goes on, the month goes on, time of life goes on, we have all different changes. It's constantly changing environment, and it's just nice to have that awareness. It gives you confidence. Yeah, I started subconsciously not exercising as much because I didn't have that confidence in my pelvic floor, and now I just put one in and off I go, and yeah, I'm ready for anything, me. So I think with anything that we do when it comes to our wellness, we should do things mindfully. So it's when you're wearing the Soma Flex, it's you need to work on your breathing techniques. As we know, if we breathe too up here, tense, anxious, then our pelvic floor is mimicking that response. So we need to mindfully think of our posture, to breathe. So we breathe in, and as we release, we breathe out, and we'd lift. We'd lift that pelvic floor. But wearing the Soma Flex makes us more aware when we relax, we lose that tension, and it also helps us to gain more control because we have something that we're wearing that we can squeeze against when we need to lift. So it's increased awareness, increased connection, definitely gives you more confidence. I think one of the main thing we picked up on the in-house service is that people do feel more connected. They do feel back in control of their pelvic floors, and they certainly are engaging more with life in a very confident way. So what's also happening when you're wearing the Soma Flex is that as it's moving with you, it's increasing tissue oxygenation and hydration, because it's causing initiating this little massaging effect here, so the tissues are responding. So you have the elements of neuromuscular retraining and also pain modulation, because if you've got tight tissues, then there's a tension being tension being increased around the mechanoreceptors, which will give us that pain perception. So gentle massage helps release that tension around the nerve endings and brings about more relaxation and normally less pain. So thankfully, pelvic floor education is now changing. We know it's a whole body reconnection. Awareness is a multi-directional function. It's your pelvic floor exercises, it's your relaxation techniques, and it's just mindfully and interoceptively working on the body's responses that we have. And I think Soma Flex is very good at that. It helps us reconnect. It gives us something to work and train against. And it also gives us that information when we want to relax and release. So we have to remember that we are living tissue that responds and adapts as we move throughout our day. It also helps us with the health of the tissue, and it can support us all the way through, our whole journey of life. It's a little tool that we have in our toolbox that just gives us more choice, really. So I feel that the Soma Flex should be integrated into your pelvic floor education. to help build an awareness and control to a pelvic floor. It empowers our understanding on how the body works. Pelvic floor issues are a silent progression. The stigma that's still around the subject, it's underreported still. And obviously, there's lots of lifestyle factors. We have from our sports professionals with that high impact. Obesity is obviously putting strain onto our pelvic floor. Chronic coughing, and all of this can accelerate weakness within the pelvic floor. But I'm afraid it's an area that, unless we pay more attention to, it fails us. But we're literally failing it by ignoring it and pretending it doesn't exist, really. I think we're all, it's as if we're in a baby walker and everything below the tray we can't see, so we just ignore it. So it's been a bit of a journey producing this, but slowly but surely we get there. We get all the information that we need, and hopefully we can roll out the Soma Flex in a whole variety of situations that can give women more choice and help us reconnect. So this is the vaginal sizing set. There's 4 sizes. It ranges from 35 to 50. 45 is the most popular size, but I recommend that you start off with maybe the 40 and get used to inserting and extracting it. And once you become more confident with it, you will then have more confidence to try the different sizes. So these are made of body-safe silicone, FDA approved. They can be worn up to an hour. So you can literally pop it in for your exercise, pop it in while you're doing your daily activities, your housework. And you just, like I said, put a little bit of lubrication, water-based lubrication, squidge it in to the cavity, just like you would a tampon. And then you just literally wear it there while you're exercising or just enjoying life. So this stage, you don't rush. You take your time, because you may decide that you want 2 sizes. I used to like the 40 for shopping and the 45 when I was exercising. So I'm back rebounding, trampoline, full bladder, no worries. I know my pelvic floor is engaged. I now just wear the 45 because over the time I've obviously been using it for a while. I use mine daily. I use the medical grade one. And just the confidence, and there are noticeable changes within that vaginal cavity and the texture of the tissues. So it's certainly given me more confidence. So that's the sizing set. Like I said, you don't rush this stage. You find your size. You will know when you can comfortably urinate, defecate with it in. It feels comfortable. It doesn't fall out. And you'll just instinctively know when it's the right size. So these are the sizes that we have. The 4 sizes, like I said, are in the vaginal sizing set. You can also have a professional set, which has all the sizes in, and you can wear those, which are medical grade silicone, up to 16 hours. So you can try the different sizes and wear them for longer. Obviously, the medical grade is more expensive. The body safe silicone that you can wear up to an hour is more cost effective for us. So I recommend getting the sizing kit, taking your time, finding the size that's comfortable for you. So like I said, you will know. And then when you want to wear it for longer, you move up to the medical grade ones, and then you can wear them all day like I do. So then you're ready for anything with confidence. So each sizing set, whether it's the professional or the body safe silicone, come with 3 cords, 3 lengths. I do recommend that you start off with maybe the medium one. So you just literally attach it through the largest hole. It goes through the hole, round into a loop, and you just pop it through the hole there. And then it's nicely attached. This is one with the smaller one on, body safe one with the smaller one, just so that you can reach inside and very gently wiggle and pull to release. So I do use them to begin with until you get used to it. I just literally pop it, find the bigger hole, pop it on my finger, water-based lubricant, pop it into my vagina like a tampon, and then just when it's time to extract, to remove, you just literally find that big hole again. You may have to roll it round a little bit, pop your finger to the hole and kind of push down and away from you. So by pushing down and away, it gently releases. The tissues relax and you can remove it quite gently. So don't try and force it out. It's just a very gentle process. So in the removal cord set, 3 sizes like we said, and the longer one will sit outside the vagina, which makes it easier to begin with, because it's just easier to get hold of. Then you may progress to the medium-sized one, which will just sit at the vaginal entrance. But once you become a little bit more proficient, it's nice to have the smaller cord, which literally is inside, normally sits inside the vagina, and you just reach in, grab hold of it, and gently wiggle and remove. So, yeah, they come in both of the sets. So phase 1 of the innovation of the Soma Flex and the clinical relevance is all about proprioception, mechanoreceptors, interoception, and that reconnection to the pelvic floor. Phase 2 is investigating the secondary purposes of the pelvic floor responsive vaginal toner. We need far more comprehensive investigations, because the secondary benefits are emerging, that obviously because we share the same space as pessaries, and other products, we need to make sure we do our due diligence and we get the research correct so that we will be placed. But at the moment, we're a consumer product, a vaginal toner, responsive one, and it's going to be really interesting moving through. Obviously, there's rules and regulations. It's a minefield. But we're working through it to make sure we can bring you the best possible product out there. So this is some of the feedback from phase 1. So obviously they found it very comfortable. It was an intuitive experience, even from first use. It was easy to insert and remove, especially if you start off with the removal cords. There was more awareness of the pelvic floor, so we're definitely heading in the right direction there. And there was greater confidence. I can't put into words how more comfortable I am and confident since using it. I don't go a day without wearing mine. So as a result of phase 1, we know it's more pelvic floor awareness, it's easy to use, comfortable and easy to fit, and definitely increased confidence. Phase 1, we found that 80% of our ladies were using it for pelvic organ prolapse, 25% for exercise and support, 10% for pelvic, just general wellness, because obviously they were having issues at various stages of their journey as a woman. And wasn't expecting this really, but it's got me quite excited, really. But obviously it's one step at a time. But postpartum recovery, 4% of people self-referred to use as part of their postpartum journey, and that's definitely an area that I'd love to explore. Imagine we have this trauma at birth, and then if we can gain more quickly an intervention to help our pelvic floor reposition itself and increase that recovery, reduce that recovery phase, I think that's definitely something we'll be looking into in the future. So just to recap, phase 1 gives us a smoother pathway to clinical adoption, pilot programs so we can gain more of an insight into the product itself, and then a bit of organic evidence. It's the feedback that the women give us that will help us really position this product as it needs to be. And then obviously we're looking at the options of medical grade upgrade of the product because of the feedback that we're gaining, but it is one step at a time. And so through the feedback that we have, the design adaptations, so we didn't have a removal cord to start with. So then we decided, let's look and see which length we actually needed for the product. So the most popular one is actually the shortest. So then the next one is the medium size length, and then the longer one only a couple of people actually use. We changed the angulation of the sides of the wall because of feedback. So we've actually changed the angle from quite a deep sided hole to a more of a slanted one. So that's actually quite interesting. So we changed these things. We did the 4-pack sort of body grade silicone to make it more cost effective. Now we've worked out that the 45 is the most popular size. We're going to do 45 and 3 smaller, so 3 45 and 2 smaller ones, or the 45 and 2 larger ones to make it even more cost effective in the future. So that should evolve in the next few months. And then obviously the medical grade silicone that we already use meets with all the standards for the medical grade products in the future. So we hopefully don't have to change anything because we've met those standards now. So phase 1 was really important, and it helps us develop the product, as I say, to make sure we all get what we need and help support us in the correct manner. So looking ahead, Soma Flex is going to be continually evolving. So we've got ongoing feedback. We've now got some clinical collaborations, and it's, I think we've refined the product design now to move forward with everything else. And hopefully we're making it a very grounded, real world experience for women. It gives us choice. And hopefully it's also going to inspire other changes for women's health. So we certainly haven't had the money put into women's health for a long time now. So hopefully it will help us rethink how we treat women's health altogether. So I appreciate you listening to me. And if you have any questions, please get in contact with support@somalives.com, and you can message me directly to them as well, and they'll pass the information on. So here's hoping Soma Flex, the responsive toner, can help many women live their life to the full. So thank you very much for your time, and look forward to hearing from you.